most ambitious feat, aiming for Howland Island west to east route. Amelia Earhart, an American aviation pioneer, vanished over the Pacific Ocean in 1937 during an attempt to circumnavigate the globe, cementing her status as a cultural icon. Prior to her disappearance, she achieved numerous aviation milestones, including being the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean.
Welcome to the place where you'll find your perfect accommodation. If you're the owner of a hotel, motel, or a similar establishment, don't hesitate to reach out for a potential collaboration.
Earhart was also a champion of women's rights and commercial air travel, and played a pivotal role in establishing organizations for female pilots. Despite disappearance, Earhart's legacy endures, with various memorials, honors, and commemorations, alongside interest and speculation surrounding the circumstances of disappearance. In 1932, Amelia Earhart embarked on a historic solo flight from Harbor Grace, Newfoundland, aiming to replicate Charles Lindbergh's transatlantic journey. Assisted by aviator Bernd Balchen, she faced challenges including harsh weather and mechanical issues before landing in Northern Ireland after nearly 15 hours in the air. This feat made her the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, earning her prestigious awards and international acclaim. Earhart's growing fame also led to close friendships with influential figures like Eleanor Roosevelt, with whom she shared interests in women's rights and aviation. In 1935, Amelia Earhart achieved another milestone by becoming the first aviator to solo fly from Honolulu, Hawaii, to Oakland, California, using a Lockheed 5C Vega aircraft. This transoceanic flight was smooth and routine, marking another triumph in her career. Earhart continued her record-setting endeavors, flying solo from Los Angeles to Mexico City and attempting a non-stop flight from Mexico City to New York. Despite challenges such as crowded landing areas and fierce competition in air races, she persevered and set multiple speed and distance records for women pilots. Recognizing the need for a more capable aircraft, Earhart began planning her most ambitious feat yet, a circumnavigation of the globe. In late November 1934, while Amelia Earhart was on a speaking tour, a fire ravaged her home in Rye, destroying cherished possessions. In the aftermath, Earhart and her husband, George Putnam, decided to relocate to the West Coast, where Putnam took on a new role at Paramount Pictures. Earhart sought to improve her flying skills and enlisted the help of Hollywood pilot Paul Mantz, prompting the move to California. They settled in Toluca Lake, near the heart of the film industry, where they undertook renovations on their new home. In September 1935, Earhart and Mantz formed a business partnership, establishing the Earhart-Mantz Flying School to teach instrument flying. Concurrently, Earhart joined Purdue University as a faculty member, counseling women on careers and providing technical expertise to the Department of Aeronautics.
In early 1936, Amelia Earhart began preparations for a groundbreaking round-the-world flight, aiming to cover a record-setting 29,000 miles along an equatorial route. With financial backing from Purdue University, she commissioned the construction of a Lockheed Electra 10E, customized to include additional fuel tanks, and dubbed her Flying Laboratory. Captain Harry Manning was initially chosen as her navigator, but concerns arose about his navigational abilities during a test flight. Fred Noonan, a skilled navigator with experience in both marine and flight navigation, was subsequently enlisted to join the expedition. The original plan involved Manning navigating from Hawaii to Howland Island, with Noonan taking over for the remainder of the journey. Amelia Earhart's plane, the Electra, was equipped with a modified Western Electric Model 13C transmitter capable of transmitting on 500 kHz, 3105 kHz, and 6210 kHz. Crystal control restricted tuning to these frequencies. The Western Electric Model 20B receiver was altered to receive 500 kHz signals by modifying its frequency bands. It had two antenna inputs and a band selector to choose between them. Earhart encountered radio direction finder equipment issues during her world flight, including a blown fuse and failure to obtain RDF bearings. The Electra's antenna setup included a dorsal V antenna added by Bell Telephone Laboratories, and modifications were made after an accident at Luke Field.
On March 17, 1937, Amelia Earhart and her crew embarked on the initial leg of their around-the-world journey. However, this endeavor was halted following a non-fatal crash necessitating aircraft repairs. The first leg, from Oakland, California to Honolulu, Hawaii, included Earhart, Noonan, Manning, and Mance, serving as Earhart's technical advisor. 3 days later, the flight resumed with Earhart, Noonan, and Manning aboard, aiming for Howland Island in the Pacific. During takeoff, an uncontrollable ground loop occurred, resulting in the collapse of the forward landing gear, propeller damage, and the aircraft skidding on its belly. Despite the uncertainty, the significant damage prompted the cancellation of the attempt, and the aircraft was transported by sea to Lockheed Burbank in California for repairs. Following repairs to the Electra, Earhart and Putnam organized additional funding and readied for a second attempt. This time, opting for a west-to-east route, the journey commenced with an undisclosed flight from Oakland to Miami, Florida. The decision to fly in the opposite direction was influenced by alterations in global wind and weather patterns since the previous attempt. Manning, the sole proficient radio operator, had departed the crew for this second endeavor, leaving only Noonan and Earhart. Departing from Miami, the duo made stops in South America, Africa and Southeast Asia before reaching New Guinea, on June 29, having completed approximately 35,000 kilometers. The remaining 11,000 kilometers would traverse the Pacific. On July 2, 1937, Earhart and Noonan departed from La Airfield in the heavily loaded Electra, aiming for Howland Island, about 2,556 miles away. The expected flying time was approximately 20 hours, factoring in the time zone difference and crossing of the international date line. The aircraft took off with about 1,100 gallons of gasoline, embarking on the longest leg of the circumnavigation. In preparation for the flight, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter USCGC Itasca was stationed at Howland Island to provide communication and navigation support. Despite strong voice transmissions from Earhart, she was apparently unable to hear signals from the ship. Attempts to guide Earhart to Howland Island failed, leading to confusion and doubtfulness surrounding the authenticity of subsequent transmissions purported to be from Earhart. The U.S. government's investigation into Earhart's disappearance concluded that her plane likely ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean. Retired U.S. Navy Captain Lawrence Safford conducted extensive analysis of the flight during the 1970s, attributing the tragedy to poor planning and execution. Many researchers believe Earhart and Noonan perished in or shortly after the crash. Some assert that the aircraft went down near Howland Island. Susan Butler, an Earhart biographer, speculates that the Electra lies on the ocean floor at a depth of 17,000 feet. Despite extensive search efforts by David Jordan and others, the exact location of Earhart's plane remains elusive, leaving the mystery unresolved.